Moonpool by Kingsley Taylor, Chapter 2, Settlement. The earth spun through the vastness of space, that is the great dance of the universe. The deer moved back and forth across the land that had become my home. Many dormant plants began to shoot again as the sunlight grew in strength. Ban returned, and there were 2 men with him. This time it was day. They strode over the hill to my shore. Ban's companions were shorter and followed slightly behind. They stopped near the shore of the lake and knelt down, their heads bowed. Ban spoke, but I had not yet gained the knowledge of the sounds, apart from the one word, Moonpool. Then they stood up. For a while they just stood and gazed across the lake. Were they waiting for something? Were they waiting for a response from me? For the second time in my long existence, I waited too. Should I appear to them? I was spirit not just of the lake, but of the valley, and as such had responsibility for the animals that came there. But whether I should interact with them hadn't been revealed to me. They stepped back to a fairly level place, some distance from the lake, where they removed bundles of skins and furs they had brought with them on their backs. I was enthralled as they drew out of the bundles some dried pieces of wood and dried grasses, long sticks and deer hides. One of the companions made a sort of nest of stones he had gathered from the shore of the lake, dried grasses and pieces of wood. He began turning one piece of wood between his hands against another. Ban and the other placed 2 long sticks into the ground, unfolded a large hide, and pulled the end over the sticks to form a shelter. Suddenly, there was a spark from the wood and dried grasses, and the first companion had a fire going and carefully added more wood. Ban and the second man came to the lake again, bowed and strode off, both with a long stick and a sharpened stone bound on one end. The man with the fire stagey had brought quite a stock of wood with him, which he laid down by the fire. Then he came and stood by my lake again. He had a long piece of deer antler that had barbs carved down the side.
Moonpool,
he said, and here you must bear with me, because the language these men spoke is a long-lost language now, even if related to a language still used, and I must do my best in the language you know to describe the words I began to pick up. Beg was one word that was used by Ban and this man, and I seemed to be a general word they use for themselves rather than an individual name. The general meaning, I presume, was that he was asking for something from me. As a sort of trial, I caused a large trout to swim perilously close to him. Quick as a flash, the antler was in the fish. He lifted it out and put it on the grass. The man bowed and tapped his chest. He spoke in a rough guess.
Store, thank you.
He picked up the fish and took it to the fire. Using another piece of sharpened antler, he cut open the fish and removed its innards, which he buried. He then placed the fish on a short stick and planted the other end in the ground, so the fish was suspended over the fire. A while later, Ban and the other man came back carrying part of the body of a deer. They came to the lake, bowed, and went to store. Sometimes I would bring a fish to store. Sometimes he would disappear for a while and return with more wood for the fire. Drank from a stream that flowed into my lake, but not from the lake itself. Ban and the other man, whose name I never learnt, skinned the parts of the deer they would hunt, scraping them with a short piece of bone with a sharp end, pegging out the skins to dry in the sun. The 3 of them would feast on the fish and deer they cooked over the fire. They had a skin they had sewed together. They seemed to hold a quantity of water, without leaking too much, that they would fill from a nearby stream, to bring back to the camp and take with them if they were away from the camp. In all this time, I didn't appear to them but watched and learned. Slowly, I came to understand much of what they were saying to each other. It became obvious their stay was only temporary, and they spoke of hunting somewhere else. Then, one morning, with the lengthening of the days and the moving of the deer to the mountains, they put out the fire, rolled up their shelter, and packed all their things together. By now they had a sizable pack of skins as well.
You two go ahead, I must say my thanks.
He watched them go over the hill and turned to my lake.
Moonpool, I thank you for your and for all you have given us.
He raised his spear and was about to break it over his knee, when, without even thinking, I stood before him to stop him. The suddenness of my appearance startled him.
There is no need for that. I cannot use it, and I do not need it. I have had much from you that you do not know.
He lowered his eyes. Because he couldn't look directly at me for long, he was about to kneel.
Ban, don't.
Some of the things I needed to say I hadn't the words for. Still, he remained standing. He rested the end of his spear on the ground and paused for a moment.
I must go, there are things to do, then I must return to Hum, but I will be back.
This human form can be so uncomfortable and confusing at times. At that moment I had to leave it and withdraw to the peace of the lake and the spinning of the world. I didn't see him go. O Maker of all things, what is this confusion? What are these feelings?
Do not do anything in haste. Do not think that these feelings are anything more than they are. You are one and he is another. Experience what there is, but go no further.
I do not understand.
When you do, remember what I say.
Should I not appear to them? Should I keep my distance? You haven't told me what you expect of me in this place.
This is still a young people, and may yet need your help.
And this was the best I was going to get as an answer. So the world rolled on, the sun rose and fell, the deer passed by again, but the men did not come. The days grew short and cold, the lake froze over, though the ice was not so thick now. The land was still. The sun sank to his lowest and was reborn again. The ice melted, the deer came with their young, I was calm. A group of people came over the hill. Ban and Storr were among them. But not the other man who had come the last time. There were also 2 other men and 2 women. Of the 2 men, one had hair that was turning white, the other had no beard on his face. One of the women had a lined face, and her lank hair was streaked with grey. The other seemed fresh and nervous like a young deer. They came to the lake.
Moonpool, I beg we may have safety. I ask your Amphiphin, we are your derision.
The older woman took a cord stung with small bones and animal teeth from her neck and threw it into the lake. I watched it as it sank slowly, a cord of rushes plaited together. Small ankle bones and teeth from a deer had been drilled through and threaded onto the cord. I could see no purpose in it. Was it a mark of conquest, or simply an adornment? I let it sink.
We pray you, Durbin, are cunning.
With that, they settled on a flat piece of ground that they had camped on before. Storr built a fire. Ban and the younger man started to erect a shelter, larger than before, that was enclosed on 3 sides, open only towards my lake. The 2 older people unrolled furs and lay them inside the shelter and lay out an array of wooden bowls on the ground. All this time the younger woman gazed across my surface deep in thought. I knew she wanted to see me, and I wondered what Ban had told her. "What is your name?" I whispered.
Leah, are you Moonpool?
So Ban named me.
Can I see you?
If you were seeing me.
No, I can't.
There is no need. Her need to see me was more than simple curiosity. But I was not inclined to appear. Besides, I don't think she was quite sure enough of my existence, and wasn't convinced the words I spoke to her were her own imagination. The shelter was very slow in going up. This wasn't because of its size, but that Ban was constantly looking over at Leah. He had a very odd, hungry look in his eyes. I had seen this look in the eyes of the stag, but never so intense. What I found slightly disturbing was that it was as if the intelligence in Ban's eyes drained away. Then, because Leah was standing by my lake, Ban's gaze would sweep over the surface. He would remember himself and concentrate on the shelter for a while. The sun sunk low to the horizon before the camp was settled. Pieces of meat were hung over the fire, and the company sat around the fire, and only then started to talk. They talked of their home far in the south. They talked of the richness of this land, that they didn't have to share with anyone else, and the herds of red deer. They talked of either staying or moving on, and they talked of my provision and protection, and I learned more of their language as they talked. Ban stood, lightly touched Leah on the shoulder, and she stood as well. I knew what this was, but what they did next rather surprised me. They approached the lake and knelt down together.
Moonpool, provider of all things, this night bless our coming together, and provide us with a child.
The moon was high above. She had been asked for the same blessing many times, and it was not as if I needed her permission. But she is greater than me, so I asked. Though her face didn't change, I knew she was touched, that this should be asked of me, and that I would defer to her, so I knew she was happy. I caused a ripple on the surface of my lake, enough to make her reflection dance in the eyes of the humans, but not to break her image.
Moonpool, can I see you?
She takes a strip of leather from her neck. Hat had a very smooth stone with a hole bored in it fastened to the strap, then threw it into the lake. As it sank, I noticed it had been smoothed by the waves of a distant shore. I still did not feel it was right to appear. I had given all the answer that was needed, and this was her time, hers and Ban's, and I would not intrude on this special time for them. These creatures were animals the same as all other animals in their nature, and I saw the animal need in them both, yet this extra gift they have of intelligence and understanding, and the powerful gift of love, was a thing I couldn't yet fully grasp. They stood and paused for a moment before walking back to the shelter, where they came together in the most beautiful act that nature is. I saw in this both the animal and the higher emotion of love. This was the coming together of two souls. The others in the ground remained by the fire, talking in hushed tones.